Good afternoon. Welcome to the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means. Secretary, will you please go? Sorry, Health and Human Services. Sorry. Let's start over. Okay, yes. Welcome to Health and Human Services. Apparently, my brain is elsewhere. I apologize. Secretary, will you please call roll?
Assemblymember Dahlia. Here. Edgeworth. Present. Gonzalez. Here. Goulding. Here. Gray. Here. Hafen. Here. Hibbets. Hunt. Here. Jackson. Koenig. Here. Nadeem. Wen. Here. Orntlicker. Here. And Chair Brown-May.
Thank you. I am here. Thank you so much. Okay, we have a quorum, and now we know we're officially in Health and Human Services. So I'd like to welcome everyone who's joining us here in Carson City, everyone in Las Vegas, and everyone joining us online. As a reminder, please silence your electronic devices. If you wish to testify, sign in at the table. Members of the public may provide testimony on a bill either in person or by telephone. You would dial 888-475-4499. Today's code is 851-5539. 5314, and then enter the pound sign. Meeting agenda and committee information is available on Nellis and on our YouTube channel. Today, public comment will be taken at the end of our meeting. And as a reminder, please be courteous and respectful in all of our interactions, even if we may not agree with another person's position. Our committee members will be using their laptops to view handouts and other documents that are available online, so please do not take that as a sign of disrespect. Today we have 3 bills on our agenda, and so we will begin with Assembly Bill 515. We'll officially open that bill hearing, Assembly Bill 515, and invite our presenter to the table. And you are welcome to begin when you are ready. Thank you for being here.
Okay, good afternoon, Chair Brown-May, members of the Health and Human Services Committee. My name is Joanna Jacob, J-A-C-O-B, no S, please, on behalf of Clark County. And I'm very pleased to be here before the committee to present AB 515. This was a bill that was worked on by the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Health and Human Services. Over the last interim, before this legislative session, we worked with then Chair Janyate of that interim committee on this issue. The interim committee, just by way of background, gets 5 bills that are dedicated specifically to child welfare. Chair Janyate had asked the county and the Washoe County and our child welfare agencies in the state about needs, and this is one of the bills that came out that was identified as a need from our child welfare agencies. So, and you'll see that it is relating to adoption assistance programs, and it is really, we're talking about here today a funding stream known as adoption savings. Adoption savings, if you're wondering what it is actually a form of federal funding that was created in 2008 by passage of federal legislation. It was the Fostering Connections to Success and Increasing Adoptions Act of 2008. What that bill did was it made federal funding available under Title 4E for certain adoptions. At the time of the passage, adoptions was really supported by state general fund. And so what happened with the passage of that bill was that the bill mandated that for the first time, child welfare agencies would be required really to do post-adoption and post-guardianship case management supports. And by making more kids eligible for 4E funding at that point, they created kind of a risk, like a pool of funding, where you take the delta between what you were spending in general fund, the kids who used to be eligible, and then now we have expanded kids who we can now bill federal funding for, and the difference between that amount is what is known as adoption savings. The federal law also required our child welfare agencies to then, with those savings, really, which we're calling it savings, but it's really a funding stream that because we're billing the federal funding, we can now they created a requirement that child welfare agencies must take that funding, it comes back to the state and must be reinvested in supports, post-adoption, post-guardianship, and then only thereafter we are required to spend at least 30% of that pot on those supports and we must prioritize those supports. And then thereafter, we are eligible to spend the funding on other defined services. It's really 4B, 4E services that are supposed to sustain permanent outcomes for children who might otherwise enter foster care, and that is federally defined. This was a new program. I know this is, you may have heard, for those of you who sit on the budget committees or who have served in the legislature may have heard that there's been a sea change in foster care through the years with the federal legislation. This was one of the things that required states and nationwide to set up new programming. And so it's been gradual. I would say in 2015, the Congress looked again at this and said states were required to start reporting on the use of that savings to the federal government. And then we have been implementing since then. But then again, with the passage of the 2018 Families First Act, the Congress ordered a review and implementation of that program. I mention this because in the 2021 legislative session, Senator Orenshaw, your colleague, did a bill to change the Nevada law. You may see this in bills that you see before this body, that if there is a pot of money that is not expended before the end of the biennium, that funding goes back to the general fund. That is something that we see frequently in Nevada revised statutes. When Senator Orenshaw brought Senate Bill 377 that session to align the state law with the federal guidelines, the intent of that bill was to bring us into line with the federal law, which requires us to reinvest those funds into specific services. And so there have been challenges, though, and that is why we're bringing AB 515. Just to give you an idea of what kind of dollar amount that we're looking at, we estimate on average in Clark County, conservatively, we look at the eligibility for the kids that we serve and the families we serve, and we are looking at an annual allocation of about $2.3 million in adoption savings. When that comes back from the federal government to the state then subgrants it to Clark and to Washoe. It is not a criticism, but that process takes time. We receive the subgrant from the state, but that can come after the fiscal year. So we received in 2022, we received our funding in November. For 2023, we received our funding in January. And so that really gives us a shortened time period to spend the funding to meet that 30% target. And we really want to, I guess, because it's a federal mandate that we have to meet. So that's why we are bringing this bill. I talked to Senator Giannate about this. The other thing that the state and the counties are going to be facing is that the eligibility under that 2008 law has been expanding gradually. In July 2024, we are now going to be serving all kids. So when the 2008 Act passed, the child welfare agencies were focusing on adoptions for older kids, 16 and older. Then it's been phased in and gradually, and now we're going to serve in July 2024 birth to age 18. So we think more kids are going to become eligible. We'll have more savings that can be generated under 4E eligibility and then come back to the state to be reinvested. And so that's why we're asking for two things in AB 515, is that we really want to make sure that, number one, when the state is budgeting for this in our child welfare budgets, that we are making sure that an estimated amount is based on what our actual amounts are, to make sure enough funding is set aside to cover our eligibility, and then it gives the jurisdictions more flexibility by stating any adoption savings does not go back to the state general fund at the end of the fiscal year under current law, but instead we can now use it for up to 2 more years. And this was, the 2-year period was something that Senator Giannate worked on with LCB Fiscal when this bill was coming out of interim finance committee. And then I think that is really the end of my presentation, we are asking for this flexibility so that we can try and meet the requirements for the federal funds. And then this gets reported back to the federal government also. So we must meet the requirements and then report back to the U.S. government. And to meet the mandate that we reinvest those funds on the services. I do have one amendment, which you may have before you. It was really, I'm calling it a cleanup, I guess, at this point. I see, thank you for leaving a copy for this. But as I mentioned, and I hope it's been clear, this is a very complicated area of law, so I tried to give you a very high-level overview. But the federal law, as I said, requires that we can only spend the funds in certain ways. So the 30% on the post-adoption, post-guardianship, and then the other services that are designed for permanent outcomes. So we're trying to clean up the statute. It said any cost of providing child welfare services without restriction. We're really trying to tie it to say this funding should be spent in the way as dictated under the federal law. And that is my amendment. And with that, I will close my comments and see if I can answer any questions that may arise. And I do have some experts in Clark County who are here to give me technical assistance if there are any technical questions. And we also have people in the audience from Washoe County and who can also help, or from the state if you have questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We do have a couple of questions from our members. We'll start with Assemblymember Hunt.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for this presentation. Oh my God. I was sitting here, I was thinking, I was listening when you were saying it takes time for the funding to get to you guys. So would it be good if the 2 years started once y'all receive the funding? Would that give you enough time to do what it is you guys trying to accomplish?
Joanna Jacob for the record, and Chair, may I go direct? Assemblywoman Hunt, thank you for the question. I think at this point, Washoe County will come up and they may opine on this too. Any flexibility we can get, we will take, I think, on this, because there is no restriction at the federal level. There is no time at the federal level under the federal law for expenditure of the funds. So really, the point is the federal law says reinvest this fund into these services, period. So more flexibility would be very, very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Can I have a second?
Go ahead. Follow
Okay. Thank you so much, Chair. So you were saying that they're phasing in all kids now from birth to 18. So that means the number goes up. So I'm basically wondering, that's why I said the other question, because will an extra 2 years really help with more children being phased in?
Joanna Jacob for the record, Assemblywoman Hunt, yes, it'll help, and I think we are running the projections, and we run the projections based on the formula that was given to us by the federal government, and I think we are currently doing that. We do anticipate that more children are going to come in, so I think, like I said, there is anything that we can do to give us the more flexibility to use the funds as mandated by the federal government would absolutely help. And I know that there are people behind me who can also weigh in when they come up in support on that issue and talk about what the flexibility would mean for them. Absolutely.
Thank you. I think what I'm really trying to see is, would the 2 years be enough? Would they need more time overall? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you. We'll go to our next question, Assemblymember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry about that. I was eating. Can you talk about some of the programs that we're talking about here?
Sure. Joanna Jacob for the record, Assemblywoman Gonzalez. I can talk a little bit about some of the programs that we do in Clark County, and Washoe certainly can talk about how they use the funds. And I know there's people here who actually are contracted with Clark County to deliver some of these services, but I know many of you may be familiar, or maybe you've met with they have representation in this building. Foster Kinship, the company Foster Kinship, they do these types of case management supports for adoption services. We also have Raise the Future, which also supports adoption and permanency solutions. That we do work with a number of these groups to provide the case management. I think what we saw with that passage of that law is that there's been a recognition that if a family is going to adopt a child, or if there's going to be a guardianship, a family is going to step up and take care of one of the kids, that doesn't end it. You know, they may need some post-adoption supports and supports as they adapt, as they form their family, and that there are definitely needs for those families. So it largely is supposed to really help in those services. And I know that I'm going to tell Washoe and the people who are going to come up can also talk a little bit about how they use those funds. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much for your presentation. We'll ask you to step back, Ms. Jacob. At this time, we'll open up testimony in support. If you are here in support of Assembly Bill 515, please come forward, fill in the chairs here in Carson City or in Las Vegas. State and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes. Please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. Bradley Mayer, partner at Argenta Partners. I'm here on behalf of Raise the Future today, as Joanna mentioned. So I was extremely involved in the bill that she referenced by Senator Orenshaw in 2021. And, dittoing her comments in terms of its intent. One thing we actually did in that bill that was interesting is we set it up to where you had 3 years to spend the 2 years of money as that was written. But the funding challenges that our organization faces, what we really do is partner with state and local agencies to help find permanency for the hardest to place foster youth. These are often youth who are older, special needs, large sibling groups. And so we use an evidence-based program that is backed by the Wendy's Wonderful Kids Foundation for Adoption to apply these kind of intensive recruitment efforts to help find kids permanency, which sometimes means adoption, and sometimes it means connecting them to an important member of their life who can provide stability and structure and help them get off to the right start as they begin to turn 18 and age out. And so one of the agencies that we contract with is Clark County, and I think we have about 130 kids from their caseload right now. Kind of ranges from 110 to 130. And the funding, though, has always been a significant challenge, which is why the adoption savings were looked at as a potential more stable, permanent funding source. We've been funded from the VOCA grants before, but those have recently gone away, and so our work is being funded through something else. And so I think to the ability of what this bill does sort of closes the loop, if you will, on what that original bill did, and then actually ensuring that this is able to be utilized in the most effective way, in a timely way, as was mentioned, for groups like us and other groups who contract with Clark County to do our work. And I have 8 seconds left, so for that reason, I would ask for your support. Thanks a lot.
Good afternoon, Chair Brown May, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Cadence Matievich, representing Washoe County, CADENCEMATIJEVICH. Ms. Jacob did a great job in sort of giving you a high-level overview of the program. What I would add to that is maybe just a little more context of, I think what this program did was enabled Nevada to not leave federal dollars on the table, right? We always talk about that we as a state have not traditionally done well in taking back the monies that our residents, Nevada residents, pay to the federal government. So this was a way to get more of that money, but it came with some strings that said, fine, you're going to get more of this money, but you can't not still spend the money that you were spending before. So another way to think of it, you hear the word savings and it sounds like, oh, money wasn't spent. Well, the money still has to be spent. It's kind of a maintenance of effort. So if you think about it in that perspective, I also think it's important to note, though, that the federal legislation doesn't put a time frame on that maintenance of effort. It doesn't say in the 3 years you have to spend it. So we're required for each one of those dollars that we're getting on a federal level that frees up, essentially, if you will, our state dollars to still be spent on this same population. So Assemblymember Hunt, you asked about the time frame being extended, and I do think from Washoe County's perspective to allow us the greatest amount of time to build up our programs, to hire staff where that's necessary, to enter into contracts. The longer time that we have to set these programs up, to resource them appropriately, will help us most efficiently and effectively in the long run be able to spend the maintenance of effort dollars to provide services to this most vulnerable population. Madam Chair, if I may, I know this isn't a fiscal committee. I'm about to run out of time. But we did, in our budget request, Washoe County asked for these adoption savings to be appropriated, and they weren't included in the budget that's currently before you. So I think this bill's really important. We ask for your support, and we would ask for consideration of this funding. Thank you.
Thank you. And now you know why I called this the Ways and Means Committee at the beginning. Thank you. My apologies. Is there seeing no one else here in support in Carson City or in Las Vegas? ABH, is there anyone on the telephone line in support of AB 515?
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you, ABH. At this time, we'll move into opposition testimony. Is there anyone here in opposition of Assembly Bill 515? Please come forward here in Carson City or in Las Vegas. Seeing no movement, ABH, is there anyone on the telephone line in opposition of AB 515?
There are no callers at this time.
Thank you, ABH. At this time, we'll move into neutral testimony. Is there anyone here who would like to offer testimony in neutral on Assembly Bill 515 here in Carson City? In Las Vegas? Seeing no one moving. ABH, is there anyone on the telephone line who would like to offer testimony in neutral on AB 515?
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you, ABH. I would invite the bill presenter back up for closing comments if you'd like.
Madam Chair, I know we are up against a deadline. One closing comment, just I want to say thank you for the discussion and also to the people in support. I think it demonstrates that what we're really asking for is like stability of this funding source will help us grow and deliver the programs. And that is the most important thing for us as we continue to struggle with how we fund child welfare in the state. I know that we'll continue the conversation perhaps in Assembly Ways and Means, and I look forward to doing so. So thank you for your consideration of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this time, we'll close the bill hearing on Assembly Bill 515. We will move to the next item on our agenda, staying in Assembly Health and Human Services, and we will welcome the bill presenter up for Assembly Bill and open the hearing for Assembly Bill 518, which revises provisions relating to the interstate placement of children. Our own Assembly member, Goulding, will be doing our presentation today. I understand we may also have experts in the room that will be joining her. You may begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Heather Goulding. I represent Assembly District 27, and I am here to present Assembly Bill 518 today. And I also have Marla McDade Williams, the Administrator of the Division of Child and Family Services, who will be able to answer any questions. Assembly Bill 518 authorizes the replacement of an existing interstate compact on the placement of children with a revised interstate compact on the placement of children. So what is an interstate compact on the placement of children, or an ICPC? First of all, the ICPC was written in the 1950s, and it's been adopted by all 50 states. So it's sort of the law of the land. It's not federal law, it's state law, but everyone has agreed to the same thing. And it was enacted to ensure the protection and services for children that are placed across state lines to non-custodial parents, foster care, foster parents, or for adoption or pre-adoption reasons. And it provides the legal framework for this handoff from state to state. So what this looks like in practice, you've got a child in the, so in this illustration, Nevada is the sending state and Utah is the receiving state. So a caseworker in Nevada creates a placement request packet for the child, and that placement request packet, the information that's included in it, the data, is part of what's included in the ICPC. What information needs to be transferred? So the caseworker from that local residency of the child and the caseworker is sent to the state's central ICPC office or administrator. From there, that packet is reviewed and sent to the central ICPC contact in the receiving state. They review the packet, and then the packet is sent to the local folks where the requested placement is to take place. And they do a home study. And we're going to talk about that home study a little bit. So remember this little red house on this slide, this home study. From there, it goes back to the central office in the receiving state and back to the sending state. So there are quite a few steps that go on. The important thing here to remember, or the take-home message on these slides, is the child isn't going from where they're living now and need a new home straight to the home. There are lots of steps that are going on in the interim. So why is the ICPC needed? It establishes a uniform procedure for the interstate placement of children. It maintains the sending state's legal and financial responsibility for the child, and it ensures continued supervision. You don't want the sending state to send a kid to the receiving state, hands off, we're done, good luck. So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And it ensures that the child, if things go south in the receiving state, that child is going to come back to the responsible sending state. So there's some safety nets built in. So that's why the ICPC, the Interstate Compact on the Placement of Children, now those words might make more sense, right? Okay, so the current ICPC needs some work, and that's the problem that we're trying to address with this bill. One of the big things is that there are not any deadlines on the home study. So remember that little red house on the slide. So one of the things that's happening is that could happen quickly, or it could take months and months and months. And this is what that looks like on the human side. You could have a child who has an appropriate family member or an appropriate home, a loving home in the receiving state, but if there's no urgency on the receiving state side, that child could be placed in foster care on the sending state for months, for a long time, when they have an appropriate, safe, loving home that they could be a member of. So, deadlines for that home, that little red house, the little study on the little red house, that's an important thing to remember. So there are also no clear standards on how that evaluation is taking place. So clear standards is a good thing. And if that placement is denied, there's not a procedure for reviewing that and appealing that denial. So these are some of the reasons, and people that are far more knowledgeable than I am, I'm sure, have more that they could address, but these are some of the big reasons why we need a new ICPC. So the solution is a revised ICPC. And thus, the new ICPC is there's an Association of Administrators for the Interstate Compact on the Placement of Children. This is the organization that oversees this compact. And they have proposed the revised ICPC. And these are some of the attributes of the revised ICPC. It modernizes the legal framework. Again, go back to the one of the first slides. The current ICPC was written in the 50s. It's very outdated. It absolutely needs to be updated. So it's modernizing the legal framework. It increases the timeliness of the placement, so instead of waiting months and months for that home study to take place, that there's deadlines are set in the revised ICPC. It clarifies the applicability of ICPC to non-custodial parents. It allows for administrative review of denials. It strengthens enforcement of the agreements and allows the compact members to update the compact without having to go through this process in every state when the compact needs to be modernized. The revised ICPC requires that 35 states adopt the revised compact in order to become effective. The green states have currently adopted it, but it's on hold until 35 states have accepted it. You'll note that Nevada is still gray. This bill would turn Nevada green on this illustration. So I just want to do so that's the broad picture of what this bill does and what an ICPC is, why we need a new one. I'm going to do a quick walkthrough. The experts are in the room if you want in-depth, but let's just walk through this long bill. I also want to make sure that you understand that this bill isn't amendable. The bill needs to be passed in its entirety in all 35 states. So there aren't negotiated points in this. However, one of the attributes of this compact is that the organization, once the 35 states have adopted it, there's a year-long process for working to establish the regulations. So, Section 1 adopts the revised version of the ICPC, and it establishes procedures for supervision, service delivery, and communication between the states. It also sets jurisdictional guidelines for states regarding the care of placed children. Section 2 defines terms and clarifies the responsibilities of the public agencies in the sending and receiving states. Sections 3 and 4 transfers the responsibility from the compact administrator to a newly created central state compact office, and it requires the governor to appoint an executive head of that office. So at the point when 35 states adopt this, there will be a fiscal impact. So we will be in Ways and Means at that point, but not now. Sections 5 through 9 address conforming changes and establish an approval process before placement. Section 10 states that local government expenses related to this act will not be subject to normal financial limitations. In all honesty, I have no idea what that one means, but the experts are here in the room that if you have any questions on that. Section 11 repeals the current compact, and Section 12 sets the effective date for the new revised compact at the time when 35 states ratified the new version. That's it in a nutshell, and any questions that I can't answer, which will probably be the technical ones, will be we have Marla Williams here to handle any of the tricky stuff. With that, Chair, we stand ready for anything you can throw at us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking on this presentation. I really appreciate that. Really well done. It's really good to see. We do have a number of questions, and so we're going to start with Assemblymember Gonzalez.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you so much for the presentation. My first question is, how does this impact private adoption?
For the record, Marla McDade Williams, Administrator, Division of Child and Family Services. So there is some coordination when a private adoption occurs in the other state. And again, I think it's primarily for that home study provision to ensure that that gets done timely for the other states. But it primarily applies to the child welfare agencies as well as the juvenile justice placements. There's a small component for private adoptions, but doesn't compel all private adoptions to follow all of the provisions that apply to the child welfare agencies.
Thank you so much. And then my next question was, in terms of, you said currently 18 states are doing this, it has to pass in this unique form. Have other states attempted to do this, and because did other lawmakers have suggestions or concerns that they wanted to change, and so that didn't get done? Or do you know what the history is in the current states?
For the record, Marla McDade Williams, I think as Assemblymember Golding said, it does have to be passed in its form. And so if they did not want to pass it in its form, they are choosing not to participate in the system. I can ask and see if there are states that have chosen not to participate because they didn't want to comply with the provisions.
Thank you so much. And to follow up that, and Chair, thank you so much for the indulgence. Do you know how long it's going to take for these 35 states to come together and pass this until we can change this, or what that time frame may look like?
For the record, Marla McDade Williams, I don't have an anticipated timeline, but as you know, we only meet every 2 years. So if we weren't able to do it this time, it would take another 2 years for us. Other legislatures meet yearly. I believe there are many states that are considering it that would likely get us to the 35 within the next year to year and a half.
Thank you so much. Oh, go ahead.
Chair, can I follow up with some additional information that I've learned in the last week and studying up on this bill and the ICPC?
You have to state your name for the record.
I'm Heather Goulding. I represent Assembly District 27. One of the key components to this is the regulations that will follow. So there's the ICPC, or the revised ICPC, but there are regulations behind that. Of course, there are, as you know, in many statutes, right? So that will be really critical as we approach this 35 states point, that Nevada is not behind in getting ahead of the other regulations. So we absolutely will want to be keeping an eye on how close we're getting so that we don't end up behind the ball when that transition is about to take place. So heads up.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And my last question is, and so 35 states have to do this for it to pass. What about the states that don't do this, that are, I think you stated in your presentation that all 50 states are part of this, so would they not have to do these provisions? Would they enter into their own compact? Just kind of help me understand what that would look like. I'm not an expert in compacts.
For the record, Marla McDade Williams. So until the 35 states participate in this new one and the rules are established, the old compact is still in place. So the 50 states right now that participate in the old compact will continue to participate. I believe that at the point that the regulations are enacted with whatever number of states are in place, that is the compact that will be in place. These others will go away. So a state that is not participating wouldn't be able to participate within a state that is participating.
Thank you so much for that clarification. Yes, thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you. Before we move on to our next question, Administrator McDade Williams, does Nevada participate in a compact working group? Have we been a part of this process as a state?
For the record, Marla McDade Williams, the provisions of the compact allow for each state that participates to be an active part of the rulemaking group. So yes, if we move this forward, we would have an active membership in that process.
Thank you for that clarification. Our next question, Assemblymember Dahlia.
Thank you, Chair. My question was answered, actually, but I am okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to Assemblymember Edgeworth.
Thank you, Chair. Most of my question was asked as well, but when was the first state involved in this compact? Just to get an idea, has it been 20 years or 2 years? I'm hearing 35 years in a year and a half or 2 years. I'm just curious, when did this start?
The revised compact, Heather Goulding for the record, 2007. The current language was written in 2017.
So if I'm clear, thank you, that means that for about 6 or 7 years, we've been working on getting 18 states, but in the next year and a half or 2 years, we'll have 35 states, is the anticipation?
Heather Goulding for the record. The second half is a supposition that there's not necessarily any basis for.
A hopeful
The first half of your statement was correct.
Thank
and
you.
the rest is unknown.
Thank you.
Unless you have something.
For the record, Marla McDade Williams, I think just for clarification, so Nevada adopted this first compact in 2017, is what you had said, correct?
My understanding is that the
apologize.
revised compact was written in 2017.
The compact that's in place now today.
I'm sorry, my question is really simple. You have to speak in simple terms. I'm not that good at math. So what I was asking is, this process of getting 35 states to come on to the new revised compact, how long has that been going on in general? And I thought I understood it was around 7 years.
So Marla McDade Williams, I stand corrected. So it has been since 2017 that they have been trying to get 35 states. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Just a quick Google, the Interstate Compact on the Placement of Children. Looks like there are states, the original compact that is in place right now, it looks like it started in the 1960s. And so this updated language created in what I believe you just said was 2017, updates the compact that we have currently, which is why there is a focus on that. Okay, cool. Thank you. Next, we have Assemblymember Koenig.
Thank you, Chair. And the responses to previous Assembly members' strand of questions answered all of mine also, so thank you.
Why, thank you, Assemblymember. Anyone else with questions? No, seeing none, thank you so much for your presentation. At this time, we will ask you to step back and we will open up testimony in support of Assembly Bill 515. If you are here in Carson City in support of this measure, please come forward at this time. I see no one in Las Vegas. You may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Brown May, members of the committee. For the record, Cadence Matievich representing Washoe County. Assemblymember Goulding went into many of the benefits of adopting this updated compact, particularly efficiencies, clear guidelines, streamlined processes, a single home study template. These are all great things, right? Improvements from when it was first put into place in the 1960s. So we think that the time is now. We would ask for your help in getting to 35. Maybe we can adopt 35 in 2025 as our motto. We would ask that you support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else here in support in Carson City and no one in Las Vegas, AVH, is there anyone on the telephone line in support of Assembly Bill 518?
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 518, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in support of AB 518, please press star 9 now. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you, AVH. Is there anyone here in opposition of Assembly Bill 518? If you are here in opposition, please come forward at this time. Seeing no movement here in Carson City, I see no one in Las Vegas. AVH, is there anyone on the telephone line who would like to offer testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 518?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 518, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you, AVH. This time we'll move into neutral testimony. If there's anyone here who would like to offer testimony in neutral on this measure, please come forward. Seeing no movement in Carson City and no one in Las Vegas, AVH, is there anyone on the telephone line who would like to offer testimony in neutral on Assembly Bill 518?
If you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 518, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we're happy to call the bill presenter back up if you'd like to make closing comments.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to work on this bill. I don't have any additional information. I'm Heather Goulding for the record. Thank you so much for the opportunity to work on this bill. And there is lots of issues going on with adoption. There may be some interaction on these bills, and so additional conversation is always welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Assembly Member, for presenting this measure. It is a committee bill, so we really appreciate you taking this measure on. I thank you for your time and your energy relative to this issue. At this time, we'll close the bill hearing for Assembly Bill 518. That moves us to our next item on the agenda, and we will welcome back our esteemed colleague to present Assembly Bill 520. So we'll officially open the hearing on Assembly Bill 520.
Thank you, Chair and Committee. I'm Heather Goulding for the record, and we are here to present Assembly Bill 520, which also addresses issues on adoption. So 520 was the outcome of the HHS Interim Committee, and here to present the ins and outs of 520 is Marla McDade Williams, the Administrator of the Division of Child and Family Services, and I'd like to hand it over to the Administrator.
Thank you. Welcome back, Administrator McDade Williams.
Thank you. For the record, Marla McDade Williams, Administrator, Division of Child and Family Services. My appreciation to the Joint Interim Health and Human Services Committee for moving this measure forward. It is intended to do three things: codify what was previously Nevada Administrative Code 127.140 of the Nevada into the Nevada revised statutes to grant the division authority to conduct background checks on the director of a child placing agency, just as we perform those background checks on their employees. Criminal background checks are under the jurisdiction of the Department of Public Safety, and we had been unable to, if you've been around a while, you know that a Nevada Administrative Code cannot compel a criminal background check and meet the FBI's compliance. So we've been trying to work on this issue and get it resolved. So that's the first portion of this bill, and that is in sections 2 through 5. It also includes provisions to authorize the division to release information to relatives of children who had been adopted, and that's in section 6. And then Section 8 authorizes prospective adoptive parents to attend a court hearing by video conference or any other technological means available to the court, including by telephone. And for some context, in Nevada, a child placing agency operates and functions outside of the child welfare system. So these are private adoption agencies, and there are 5 that we have licensed in the state of Nevada right now. What else do I want to say about this? So they are separate organizations, and we did discuss briefly sections 1 through 4, which relate to the criminal background checks and authorization for that. And we have had some discussions with the Department of Public Safety and understand that there may be some concerns about how it was written. And so with permission of the chair, we would like to meet with Public Safety as well as the bill drafters to ensure that we can all get on the same page about, ensuring that we are in compliance with the Federal Bureau of Investigation's rules as it relates to these criminal background checks. And again, we are just looking for that authority on the criminal background checks. And then on the adoption registry portion, there are situations where, for example, a biological family member of an adopted child, there are 2 children, they're adopted out to different families, and they can't always connect and have the legal authority to go back into records to find each other. And so that is the fix that we're seeking in the second part of this. And then the third, again, is just relatively straightforward to allow technology to be used in court. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for your work in the interim. And we look forward to receiving an amendment as you continue to work on this language. Members, do we have any questions? Sure. Assemblymember Hibbets.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the very brief presentation. I just have one, well, I had 2, but you answered one of them, so I thank you for that. What is the policy contained in this that makes it a 2/3 bill? Maybe legal would actually be the better person to answer that, I'm not sure.
Go ahead, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. David Noss, LCB Legal for the record. In Section 2, subsection 2, it says that the division may charge each person for the cost of the fees charged for the fingerprinting. And so because there is a new fee that will increase revenue, it triggers the 2/3.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you very much.
And Madam Chair, Marla McDade Williams, if I may add, we currently do background checks and we do not charge any fees for any of those background checks, so it is not in our budget to charge fees for these.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions? Hearing none. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you so much. We'll ask you to step back. At this time, we'll open up testimony in support of Assembly Bill 520. If you are here in support of this measure, please come forward at this time. Seeing no one here in Carson City and no one in Las Vegas. AVH, is there anyone on the telephone line in support of Assembly Bill 520?
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 520, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 520, please press star 9 now.
Good afternoon. My name is Irina Biasati. I'm speaking for myself. I am in support of this bill. I don't know why these provisions weren't in place originally from the beginning, and better late than never, so I fully support this bill. Thank you.
Chair, there are no other callers wishing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you, AVH. This time we'll move into opposition. If there's anyone here who would like to offer testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 520, please come forward. No movement here in Carson City. Seeing no one in Las Vegas. AVH, is there anyone on the telephone line who would like to offer testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 520?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 520, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you, AVH. This time we'll move into neutral testimony. If there's anyone here who would like to offer testimony in neutral on this measure, please come forward now. Psych. All right, seeing no movement here in Carson City and no one in Las Vegas. AVH, one last time. Anyone on the telephone line who would like to offer testimony in neutral on this measure?
If you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 520, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you, AVH. At this time, we're happy to call the bill presenter back up. No closing comments. She is waving us off, so we will close the bill hearing for Assembly Bill 520. That moves us to the last item on our agenda, members, public comment. So to provide public comment by telephone, please dial 888-475-4499. And then when prompted, provide the meeting ID, which today is 851-553-95314, and then press the pound sign. If you would like to offer public comment here in Carson City, please come forward. You will have 2 minutes. Seeing no movement here in Carson City and no one in Las Vegas. AVH, is there anyone on the telephone line who would like to offer public comment today?
Chair, the public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you, AVH. Members, that concludes our business for today. Our next meeting is scheduled for Friday, February the 4th. Please watch your times. April the 4th. Sorry. I'm okay, really. April the 4th. We started February 2nd, right? Is that when we started? Our next meeting is on Friday. Please watch the time because it will be earlier than expected. With that, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.